Welcome to the Week 18 review episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. That's it. The regular season is in the books. We're going to start looking forward to the playoffs, but we just need to clear up the business of Week 18 and everything that happened across the NFL. Gentlemen, of course, I'm joined by Joe and Byron. Gentlemen, how are you doing? Enjoy your Week 18. Sad that it's over.
Yeah, all of our teams' seasons are over, but yeah, ready for playoff football now, so best part of the year.
Yeah, it was a weird Week 18. Obviously, there wasn't many games which mattered and a few duds, but we've got the playoff lineup now, and I think how it's fallen is probably what I wanted is a stretch, but probably the teams who deserved it are there.
I've got him, cool. We'll of course look ahead and inevitably touch on the wild card round as we get through this, but we'll have our full wild card round preview plus guest. We've got a Washington Commanders guest joining us as well in our wild card preview that'll be out next week on Friday. But let's get into it. We're only going to talk about 2 games in detail this week. We usually talk about 4, but we're only going to talk about 2, I suppose 2 that mattered maybe the most or in terms of the outcomes. And we're going to start in the NFC South. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers clinched a 4th straight NFC South crown, just about edging past the New Orleans Saints, 27-19. The Saints were in front for a heck of a long time in this one. They got off to a real good start, and it was eventually kind of in the 4th quarter when Tampa woke up and started getting into the game and getting a lead. But they got the job done, which I suppose is all that matters when you're in a win and in situation. I mean, it turns out they didn't even need to win, really, but we'll get onto the Falcons later. But, Bucks just about get over the line against the Saints.
Yeah, it's a great way of summing it up. Yeah, ended up winning by 1 score. And, there's a bit of criticism, maybe not criticism, but the big story of the game that isn't the result is Mike Evans getting his 1,000 yards again. And it came at a time when the Bucs could have just knelt the game out because somehow he didn't get to 85 yards during the game. It felt wild with, how well Baker Mayfield's slinging the ball. He had an incredible touchdown pass to Jalen McMillan in this game on the run. But yeah, Mike Evans just didn't get the volume we all anticipated. We all thought, no problem, he gets to 85, he'll have it by half-time. But yeah, he ended up having to get it on the final play of the game when you're in kneel-down territory because the game was won. So, yeah, the Saints, I don't know whether we give credit to the Saints or scorn on the Bucs for keeping this as close as it was, really. I mean, the Saints came to play, which I don't know if any of us really anticipated. So credit to them, and they're kind of at this stage of the season, ragtag bunch of, especially on offensive players available. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamal Williams, Jordan Mims, their running back rotation this week, which doesn't really stand out. And Dante Pettis getting in the end zone, a man who I think he wasn't drafted with Mike Evans a couple of years later, but he hasn't been as good since Mike Evans was drafted, I don't think. So, yeah, credit to the Saints, and they clearly played for the Riz dog, but, he is obviously as interim.
Saints played well played. So probably Spencer Rattler's best game as well, to be fair, in the games that he started by far. Potentially give some hope because I suppose there's potentially a chance that he does start for the Saints next season because of kind of the situation they're in. But I think I was worried for the Bucs. Obviously, they were massive favourites in this game, and I talked in the preview about I thought the Saints would keep it close. These games, the Saints have got a good record of covering and winning in Tampa. And yeah, they did it again in terms of they just got off to a kind of a fairly quick start, and Tampa would just slow out the blocks. It felt like they were feeling the pressure of the expectation and as big favourites. But Baker put the team on his back in the start of that second half. I think we saw it with a scrambling. I think he had a scramble for 28 yards. He was, cutting at least big second and longs into third and shorts and even running on third and long as well. And then, he found those kind of 2 dimes to Jalen McMillan. And once kind of they got ahead, even though the Saints had the chance to come back and potentially tie it, you kind of felt they'd be okay at that point. Joe, what were your thoughts on the Bucs running the play to Evans to get him over the line? Potentially risky one. And
yeah, it would have been nuts if the Saints got the interception and managed to time. Obviously didn't matter with what happened with the Falcons, but that would have been the craziest. It was something being up there with one of the craziest ways to lose, having the ball up 8 just nil. But I understand why they did it. You know, I know what Byron was saying, but he did get 14 targets, so it wasn't like they weren't targeting, but it felt like the Saints knew what they wanted to do, so they managed to play well. I think they were fair lucky. That first half, their defense just did not show up, and that's why this Bucs team's such one of the weird teams where they can show up and beat the Lions, and I feel they can beat anyone on the day, but they can also have them games where they just stink. And you know, you're playing. I know Spencer Rattler's his best game, but you know, this is a guy who couldn't score much on the Raiders. And not done much all year to then suddenly just in the big game as well. And, you know, you do with that the Bucs are that kind of team where they just don't show up when it's needed. Obviously, they came back in the second half, a lot better performance. Mayfield played a lot better. Still through an interception, but, you know, you're 16-6 down to a bad Saints team when you need to win. And, you know, you managed to get that victory, but, you know, fair play to them. And, yeah, interesting game next week. But, yeah, overall, weren't too impressed with them. I think I expected them to just beat this Saints team and actually go to the playoffs. You know, being one of them like wildcard teams who could somehow get there, but you know, yeah, a win's a win at the end of the day. They're in the playoffs, and yeah, like you said, 4 straight NFC South, and the one before that, they won the Super Bowl where they came second. So it's not been a bad 5 years under that regime.
Yeah, they've had a good run of it. Yeah, the Mike Evans one, I think probably the bit I've taken away from most is the vitriol in the Saints community around you let that happen. Like, they're beating us, they're about to clinch the division, and the Saints just played so soft on that play. You know they're trotting out the offense to do that. And they should have just, you know...
double covered him.
Yeah, you double covered him or a load of forced penalties. Just don't let him do it. Like, you know, I know the guy's got $3 million on the line, which he got, but fuck him. You know, Evans has been the scourge of the Saints for years in Tampa.
Lattimore wouldn't have let it happen.
Yeah, exactly. If Marshall Lattimore was still there, there's zero chance Mike Evans is getting that ball. But yeah, there was just some chatter there I thought was quite interesting. But yeah, Bucs not sneaking. Obviously, they've come back, good comeback really from where they were. The Falcons had the 2 games on them. I certainly wrote off the Bucs in terms of when Evans and Godwin went down. I didn't think they had a prayer. They kept it together, and yeah, 4th division title in a row, dominating the NFC South. And they match up against the Washington Commanders in the wildcard round, who they played all the way back in week 1. So, return.
And we get that, and we get a lot more Evans.
We get what
matchup we all wanted. I just want to give a shout out as well to McMillan. I think he's had a good rookie year, and obviously with Godwin going down, having that second wide receiver has been big. 8 touchdowns so far this year. I think it's been a great rookie year for him, and another 3rd round wide receiver teams have hit on. So
he got a receiving touchdown in 5 straight games as well. The only rookie with a longer streak since 1970 is Randy Moss.
Nice.
Good guy to end the season.
They've not done too bad with attacking. Obviously with Bucky Irvin as well. They've had a good draft, this Buccaneers team.
Yeah, they've drafted pretty well really the last few years, haven't they? Tampa, to be fair, they've got a lot of big players for them out there. Quick one with just Mike Evans again, just because he's had 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He hit his bonuses, which we're all obviously wanting him to. I think the record's probably the bigger thing. Quick question: is Mike Evans the best Tampa Bay Buccaneer ever?
It's him or Warren Sapp, isn't it, I guess.
Yeah.
Certainly the most likable Buccaneer of the good ones. Not sure how lovable Warren Sapp is. I'm pretty sure he had some damning allegations, if I remember correctly. I would give it to Mike Evans just because he's played with some weird offenses. He's always got it done. Super consistent. Yeah, I'd be happy to give it to Mike Evans.
Not Tom Brady, no.
Longevity.
No, I agree. Mike Evans is it would be my pick as well.
Yeah,
I do love as well. Like Mike Evans just seems like a top-notch teammate as well. Like when Chris Godwin was dominating the first half of the season, like Mike Evans was his biggest cheerleader. You know, there was no issue with it like taken away from Mike Evans or anything like that. Like he just seems to love his teammates and be a great leader. So yeah, delighted he kept his streak going.
Yeah, and do you think he can make it 12? Obviously, this is the 11th one was the closest to the bone for sure. Left it to the very last play of the regular season. Do you think he can do it 12 years in a row?
Definitely. He missed 3 or 4 games this season, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
obviously, yeah.
If he plays 17 games, I'd expect him to get it every season. It sounds a bit silly, I guess, but like, it's not that many yards per game if you play all 17. And he's still, I believe he was one of the best separators in the NFL this season. So his skills don't seem to have evaporated. So,
and he's only 31 as well. Like, I always look at him thinking he's kind of maybe closer to like 33, 34. Yeah. He's only 31 as well.
And he certainly helps playing against the Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. 6 games with the player 3 of the worst defenses in the league. So
his friends are saying now as well, just like, hey, Mike, you need 6 yards. Come on down, buddy.
Yeah, he only played 14 games. He did it once on 13 games back in 2019. He got 1,100 yards in 13 games. So
that's probably one of his best seasons, to be fair.
Yeah, congrats to Mike Evans. Moving on then to the NFC North, we'll stay in the NFC. Interesting. This we're expecting this to be a track meet between the Vikings and the Lions. Didn't end up sort of playing out that way. And you know what? Not to admit when you're wrong, but what I sort of said was we're real worried about the Lions' defense. How could they possibly stop people? Well, they just stopped the Vikings in the red zone time and time and time again and got the job done. I didn't think they were capable of doing it with the amount of people they were missing. I know Anzalone came back, which was pretty big for that defense, but incredible stuff from the Lions to just kind of hold the Vikings. And then Jahmyr Gibbs took over really in that second half, didn't he? Where second half and fourth quarter especially, 4 touchdowns for Gibbs, 3 on the ground, 1 through the air. I think he went for like 170 yards combined, and the Lions won 31-9. The NFC runs through Detroit.
Yeah, what a performance. Dan Campbell, obviously, 4th down, Billy Big Knackers as always. But Aaron Glenn getting that defense organized, fired up, in tune, just what a performance. Sam Darnold had the 2nd most overthrows in his career, second only to the Seeing Ghosts game. He was woeful last night. I don't want to put it all on Sam Darnold, but he was really poor. And he needs to get his head right by Monday, because I think Darnold is one of them players who is either hot or he's cold. And when he's cold, you're not winning the game with him in there. But that Lions defense performance I thought was absolutely incredible last night. I've seen some, and I hate it always generally, but criticism of the Vikings should have been taking the points. I don't think against the Lions you can go in with the attitude of taking the points and kicking field goals and hoping for the best, because they ain't going to do that. So, you might win here and there on that attitude, but I don't think by and large you're going to. And I think one other shout out on the defense was Amik Robertson. I must say, a cornerback I'm not overly familiar with, but a former Raider, became a free agent and went to the Lions and had lined up against Justin Jefferson through high school, seemingly. I talked about how he can go one-on-one with him. Restricted Jefferson to 354, no touchdowns on 9 targets. That doesn't come easily against Justin Jefferson. Again, he was helped by Sam Darnold. I think thinking Justin Jefferson was an extra feet tall last night. He seemed to be going high a lot on everybody, but Jefferson, it seemed especially notable because you kind of just expect Jefferson to pull in everything that he touches. But I felt Amik Robertson, again, kind of have a no-name, pulled in this incredible performance on the biggest stage. And again, a lot of credit goes to Aaron Glenn, but you need the individual players to step up as well. And for who they have missing, I think that's one of the coordinated performances of the season from Aaron Glenn. Just no way I've seen it coming. I did pick the Lions as our ATS, but not with much confidence, a lot more heart than head, I must say. So,
and not like that. I mean, I say it's 22-point win, but I think the game was closer than 22 points. Yeah. I think the Vikings did an okay job of moving the ball. It was just to say the 0 not for 4 in the red zone. I think that was.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, 6 points there, and that's when it was still 7. The line still only had 7 points. So if you get just 2 touchdowns there and 2 field goals, you're 28-7. Well, obviously the game could have changed. The Lions could have played it differently if they got the touchdowns. But yeah, it's massive. I've never seen they were saying on the commentary. I don't think Darnold's ever been hit or pressured as much as a Viking. That offensive line just didn't play to. So it just didn't feel like the Vikings were up for this game. It was a really weird performance. Even Justin Jefferson, he had a drop in the end zone. and he didn't feel like he was firing all cylinders. A lot of the balls from Sam Darnold were short passes where it feels like this season especially he's been throwing some bombs, and yeah, they just felt like because he's a quarterback who holds on the ball quite a lot that the Lions got to him. And yeah, coming from playing against the 49ers where they couldn't stop anything except the 2 interceptions, it was a complete performance. And it's actually, yeah, the Lions went down a little bit in my estimation the last couple of games, but they've gone back up now where playing at home, that certainly helped as well. And I think I think now it's in between them and the Eagles. Obviously, we see what happens, but yeah, I've got a lot more belief in them. And yeah, I'm curious how the next game, because I saw that the officials they called the most defensive interference so far this year, and they didn't call them. I think they called one. I can't remember that, or maybe one.
I think there was one like contact, but it wasn't
right at the end. Yeah, but there was a few where I was like, oh, okay, that's going to be defensive, and they didn't call it. So it was that weird game. I think there was one in Hawkinson where Anthony caught his hand just before the ball got there, and it just felt like one of them. You just expecting the flag to come, and it didn't. And so I wonder if, obviously, being at home that helps. But then Kevin O'Connell, if they do go back to the Lions, be like, look, you missed all these calls, and try and play that kind of games, because they did play very physical, this Lions team, which you would associate with the Vikings. But yeah, they didn't turn up. And even like, obviously, the defense played well at the beginning, but I felt like they folded quite a lot. But yeah, let's shout out to the guy behind me, Jahmyr Gibbs, with his 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, incredible performance for Gibbs, who's really kind of, not stepped. Obviously, they usually have the kind of 1-2 combo, Gibbs and Montgomery, but Gibbs is sort of just taking on that lead role, and yeah, he's thriving in it. Especially if you're a fantasy owner, this is the dream that you want. If you're a fantasy owner, Jahmyr Gibbs, this is kind of what you want all the time. He's produced time after time. 4 touchdowns in this case. I think we're going to see these two meet up again in a couple of weeks. I think that's a strong possibility. The Vikings got a tough game against the Rams, but I think there's a chance we get Vikings Lions in the divisional round. It
also would be I'm just saying it would also be the Lions without coming out with injuries as well, which they seem to every game. It looks like Terry Arnold might be done, and Kevin Zeitler came off injured as well, which is massive with how their offensive line has been playing. But there was like some talk Montgomery could possibly be coming back in the playoffs, which I thought was crazy, hearing that on commentary.
I mean, it depends how far they go, but yeah, maybe. MCL, wasn't it? Aiden Hutchinson was still talking a couple of weeks ago about, I can get back for the Super Bowl. We'll see.
Seeing him on the sideline, I was like, I wonder how far away is he?
Yeah, actually, it was week 5, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it feels like a long time.
Yeah,
week 5, week 6, week 6.
In my head, it was week 5, but
whenever I was the London game where I went to Bears Jags, so it was that same day. So I think it was week 6, maybe. And the Bears have won a game finally since then, which is great. We'll get to that later on. But yeah, Lions. NFC runs through Detroit. They're at home. They needed the week as well. I think more than anything, the bye itself is probably the valuable reward. Just with kind of where they're at the minute, can't get any more players injured next week because you're not playing. You got hopefully a chance.
Yeah, don't say that.
Maybe a chance of getting some back. I don't know, or to certainly anybody that's banged up. A much needed rest. Although from what we saw in the college football playoff, maybe the getting the bye wasn't the best thing, as everybody who got a bye to the quarterfinals got beat. So anyway, we'll see. But anything on? So quick one. You talked about how good Aaron Glenn's got the defense going. Sounds like he's going to be the Saints head coach from the noise that's come in, and also Ben Johnson's going to be taking interviews during the bye.
Mm-hmm.
From a Detroit side, is that something that you want? Obviously, these guys are probably going to go because they've done such a good job, and that's part of having a great team is these coordinators do get opportunities elsewhere. But kind of when you're preparing and things like that, is this what you want?
Sorry, Jay, go ahead.
I was going to say, I always think it's overblown, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think professionals they're probably prepared for this for a while. They've got everything in there to take a few hours out of the day just to interview. And, I think with someone like Ben Johnson, he goes into an interview, he can just be like, yeah, look what I've done all year. I don't know if he's one of them where he has to. Yeah, I don't know if he has to sell it so much because he's like such the big deal. He's like the the hottest name around for a coaching job. So I'm guessing he doesn't have to do too much. Like I said, if Aaron Glenn's already penciled in, then again, I always think it's overblown. I've never seen like a team come out like, well, that's because they were interviewing for a job, they're not ready. The players, they've got plenty of assistants as well who helps out. It's not like it's just them and them alone. So I don't see it being an issue.
And yeah, I was going to say, like, it's not ideal, but you'd rather have people that are wanted than, like, have coordinators that nobody wants to interview. And, like, with Ben Johnson, I wouldn't even bank on him leaving. Like, he's apparently not interested in the Jags job anymore because Trent Balk is still there. He's only interviewing, I believe, with the Bears and the Patriots. If Ryan Pauls is still there, I bet he tells the Bears to stick it. And you see what the Patriots organization is like. I love Ben Johnson. Like, he's not interested in going to be a head coach. Like, if it's not right for him, he'll just keep holding on because I'm not saying he's got a dream gig here, but it's very easy to see why you would stick around and work with Dan Campbell. Like, you're obviously respected. You have a great offense to work with. You're given freedom to do not what you want, but like clearly he's given freedom to do a lot of what he wants. And he already has a great. I can see the benefit of going somewhere like New England because you get to play with Drake May, or coach Drake May. You get to coach an early pick this year. But by the same token, you've just seen them fire a coach who was put into a shitty situation in Gerard Mayo. So I don't think Ben Johnson's going to be snatching at any job just because it's available. I can see Aaron Glenn more so because, you've seen like Lou Amarudo, the Bengals DC, went from a hot name to fired. I think that's a lot more easily done defensively. I think if you're a defensive head coach, there is more incentive to take a job as it comes. Whereas Ben Johnson obviously values himself, turned down interviews last year, pulled out the running of the Washington job last year. If he goes, he goes. But yeah, I don't think it's like Joe says, like it's one day out of your preparation. They've got a bye week. If they lose, it isn't because Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson have looked elsewhere for head coaching jobs.
I think it helps in it 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
and I think the squad is there and everything's there. While someone like Bobby Slowick, for example, he had a great year. He was like a hot candidate, but then he didn't. I don't think he interviewed or he didn't get anything. And then this year, no one really wants him because they've had a down year and it's not been as good. So I think having them 2 years and having such a good squad, that if he sticks out for one, I think if he does stay, it's really one more year. And then it's probably got to go at some point, just because then there'll start being conversations about like, why is he not going and all this kind of stuff. But yeah,
we've seen kind of some of these coordinators out. I think probably the best example, Eric Bieniemy. We've kind of wondered for years why he didn't get a job. And then he kind of got out from the Chiefs, and maybe it was sort of, I need to go somewhere else and show what I can do, and then maybe I'll get it. And then it didn't work out for him. I think he was back in college, this year.
Yeah, I think he got fired.
Yeah, UCLA, maybe. Well. Feel like he might.
But I also, he was under Andy Reid. It's, he's like, he's only under Dan Campbell, who's not the offensive coordinator. Like, Andy Reid is the man at the Chiefs. So that's where we see the difference, where it is Ben Johnson's offense. It's not someone else's who's underneath. Yeah. But I do agree that, at some point.
To be fair, like, Eric Bieniemy wanted a job.
Yeah,
he always such consideration. Ben Johnson, if it's right for him, he'll take it or he'll go and interview. But like, he's turning down interviews. Not many. I think Ben Johnson is kind of a bit of a one of one in that instance, and a bit of a rare case. I did just want to shout out before we move on. What I kind of loved about their play calling, a kind of philosophy yesterday on offense, was like their dedication to the running game. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things. I know they weren't behind at any point in this game, or certainly not by halftime, which is where I'm going to reference here. But in the first half, they had 15 carries for 3.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. And, this is one of the things we've got at Baltimore a lot for in big games, is getting away from that and going to Lamar through the air, and it just never working. You go 3 and out and the other team scores, and then you have to keep passing it. In second half, they went 16 carries, so 1 more for 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it was so telling watching the second half. Like, Minnesota just couldn't stop them. Like, and Minnesota's running game couldn't match theirs either. So I just thought that was like really telling that, you know, the season on the line, the ball just went in Jameer Gibbs' hands, and we're just going to keep running at you. The O-line's just going to dominate you, and we're going to stick to what we do. You know, there was no, I don't want to say fancy Ben Johnson stuff, because there was no trick plays, there was no flea flickers, it wasn't trickeration, it was big boy football, and we're just going to push the ball down your throat, like real, what I would call like NFC North football, truthfully. This is who we are, this is what we'll do, and it paid off in spades in the second half where they did just dominate them.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how you're going to win in January, isn't it? You keep the ball out of your opposition's hand. They're all good teams at this point in the playoffs, all fairly good offenses. Keep the ball out of their hands. We're going to let our big boys up front do the work, and that's how we're going to win. And that's the formula, I think, for the Lions. Doesn't need to be fancy in January. Just get the job done. NFC runs through Detroit, so I think we should potentially get some fun NFC playoff matchups for sure. The way it's fallen. They're the only two games we're going to go to in detail. Let's kind of cover off the rest as we go. We'll pick up any kind of big talking points as we touch the games, but we're going to go through our fourfold challenge. Byron, it wasn't to be. You needed to have a good week, or a great week, really, to beat Joe. The only way you'd have caught him is, you'd have only way you'd have caught him is 4-0. You went 0-4, sadly. Yeah. So you got the 4 right. It was just in the wrong column. So Byron, you will be taking on the 24-hour fast food chain challenge at some point in the off season. Very much looking forward to that.
Likewise, I can't wait. All played out beautifully for me. Yeah, and this is comped by good teams win, right?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll have a word with Cindy. She'll be delighted.
If we'd have done better playing Fantasy Gameday, then maybe, but it could have been. I was going to say you could use your fourfold challenge winnings, but
that's explain that to Cindy as well. Okay, great.
Yeah, sadly. So yes, Byron, Joe in the end, 4.5 games clear, I think. So yeah, and I was safe weeks ago. But we'll start then going through. Joe, you were first pick, so we'll start with your games you selected. You took the Dolphins as a 1-point favorite, and I mean, in the end, it didn't matter because the Broncos won, but Jesus Christ, this was horrible from Miami. 2 are out again. It was Tyler Huntley, sorry. It was just grim from Miami, but Mike McDaniel and the GM are sticking around. They're getting another crack at it.
Yeah, it was a weird one. Before I actually put that on, I should have actually looked at a bit more of the team deal. I think both tackles were out, along with Tua and a few other players. So I was like, okay. I saw that like a couple hours after I did it. I was like, Jesus Christ, why have I chosen that? And they were actually underdogs by the time we got to kick off as well. But he started off okay. They got the interception on Rodgers' first play. They went 6-0 up, and I thought, is this just going to be a weird game? And then I think they saw the Denver score, and they started taking players out. And as soon as that happened, I was like, But they kept getting a touchdown to bring it back to like 5 points. So many different times, I was like, come on, just get one more possession. But I think they'd given up by then, and they took up some of the starters out, and it was a lost season. But fair play to the Jets. Rodgers with 4 touchdowns. See what happens with him. It's 2 teams again in I was going to say transitional, but it feels like even though the Dolphins are keeping their head coach and GM, which I think we mentioned a few weeks back, I was 50-50 if they would keep him. But I think the winning the last few games has helped. But obviously the big news, like Tyreek Hill, seems like he wants out. He's already straight away on the presser being like, yeah, get me out of here because I ain't made the playoffs. So it should be interesting where they go from here with, Tua's after a year of playing every game to then having this year where obviously got the concussion again and a few other injuries. And after paying him big, it's just not a good roster, and I'm not quite sure how they're going to bounce back and challenge in that AFC. I feel like last year was their year to do something, and they just shit the bed in Kansas in the cold. So and then who knows with the Jets, who seem to think it's 2005 with the GMs and head coaches they're interviewing. It's a bit crazy.
I'm expecting a phone call from the Jets to interview for this job because everybody is getting an interview for this New York Jets. Bobby Slowik, you mentioned earlier, not getting much attention. He's got an interview with the New York Jets. And so I've had the list somewhere, but there's so many names on it.
Well, Rex Ryan is confident that he's got the job. And Arthur Smith, they're going for a few of us. It's just like, come on. I saw someone who want experience in the GM side and head coach. He's just like, there's a reason these people don't have jobs anymore. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, strange one. But do we think that's Rodgers' last game in the NFL?
I don't know. I feel like he's going to go away, have an epiphany, and I could see like the 49ers signing him if there's some daft like that, just to like as a backup, or or he just goes to a random team who's willing to pay him and put up with his bullshit. But
I mean, the career path says he goes to the Vikings next year, right? That's the path.
And he actually had a deep, like, his stats look decent with the amount of touchdowns, yards, interceptions. I wouldn't go for it just because, I don't think he's played that well. I think he's to try to shine a turd at the end of the year. He's had a few good games, ending, but he started off not good. And, I think he is definitely a part to play why the Jets haven't done well. There'll be some team desperate enough if he goes out into the rainforest again and has an epiphany that he needs to play one more year to beat. I think he needs 6 more touchdowns to beat 5. So could be it.
And kind of for his 500 touchdown pass, didn't he? In the game. So if he does finish, he has been an all-time great. For sure. He said in his interview, I think we'll hear pretty quickly. I think again, what Aaron Rodgers says and what Aaron Rodgers does can be two very different things. But he said that he wants to get it kind of done quickly, don't want it lingering into the off season, and that he's sitting down with the Jets today. So who knows, we might see movement on this one quickly.
Maybe not the Jets, but him being a quarterback in the league, he's going to milk that as much as possible. He's got, he needs something to talk about McAfee when he goes on every week. So he's going to milk that as much as possible to stay in the limelight, where he'll probably say, I'm not coming back. And then a few weeks later, I'm thinking about it. It's going to go on all summer.
Well, we had that from 5, didn't we? We had the retirement, then coaxed him out of, then he came back and then was traded. And so, Anyway, yes. Dolphins miss out anyway, 8-9. Put me down for a 9-8 Dolphin season next year, and nothing really changing. You had the over, Joe, in Niners Cardinals, and the Cardinals covered the total themselves, 47-24. Kyler had a decent game to finish up the season. Passed for 4 touchdowns. Trey McBride on a touchdown hot streak to end the year after going so long without one. Even Greg Dortch got in for a couple, and we saw the Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs, for the Niners. Just a shellacking, this really.
Yeah, it was fairly close up until, what was it? It was 24-26. I think it was like the third quarter, the fourth, and then they just got a touchdown, fumble, interception, touchdown. It just went off, and it's a lost year. It was one of them where I didn't really care about this result. We actually get a better draft pick. I think we were one before the Cowboys. 11. Obviously, it's not how I expected the season to go. A lot of injuries. Then there's a few. Obviously, Isaac Guerrero goes out, I think, on the first drive. We just can't keep any running backs fit. A few other injuries. You're playing with Dobbs. So, but, Pearsall looked good again, which I think's really good. That the last 2 games, he's actually looked like a really good player. Especially with obviously everything what went through in the off season. I feel a bit sorry for Juwan Jennings, who got ejected. And I think he was just under 1,000 yards. When he got ejected, he would have got that fairly easily, because I think it was a game I expected to be plenty of passing yards. And it's a big off season for the Niners, where I think they just need to invest heavily in the both lines, to be honest, because I think that's where they're the weakest on the offensive line and defensive line. And obviously getting Trent Williams back is a big help, but that defensive line, there's been a lot of injuries, but they need to start stacking that up to challenge next year, and we'll see where some of the players go, because I think that'll be Greenlaw's contract's done, a few other players, so see what they do with Purdy. So curious how the offseason is going to go, how they're going to replace these players, and what the contract situations will be.
Lots to do for the Niners. And the Cardinals, like I say, finished off, they end up 8-9. in the NFC West. And your under was Chiefs Broncos. We talked about it in the preview. I thought it was going to be kind of tight, low scoring. The under did hit, but it wasn't like that at all. The Broncos won 38-0, just killed the Chiefs, or what was I can't really call it the Chiefs that were out on the field. Really, I don't think they were in jersey and helmet logo, but certainly isn't going to be the Kansas City Chiefs that we see line up in the divisional round in a couple of weeks. Just for the Broncos just went out, took care of business, did not even leave any doubt that they were going to win this game.
Yeah, I think when it went touchdown, field goal to start, I was like, okay, this under is certainly not hitting. But yeah, I think, like you said, they just dominated. I think I had the Chiefs covering as well. I think it'd be a lot closer game, but I think the Broncos just blew them away, and then once they were fairly down, they were down by 14 within 10 minutes. So it's hard to come back when you're playing all your backups. So it is what it is, and yeah, I'm happy for the Broncos. Bo Nix obviously hitting some records and played really well and in a must-win. Obviously, third time lucky, and I think they deserve to go in into the playoffs. I'm glad they went in, definitely over the Dolphins. I want to mad if the Bengals went in, but I think the Broncos overall this season deserve to be in more. So yeah, and yeah, I've seen a lot on the Twitter. Everyone's whinging about that the Chiefs, but the Broncos going because the Chiefs played the backups, and it's well, don't start 0-4 Bengals, and
yeah,
I think
Patriots in week 1. Yeah,
I saw Nick Wright put on their Twitter where it was there's been 18 teams made the playoffs since the Bengals were last in it. They aren't this juggernaut what people think. So
yeah, that's fair.
So I don't think you don't deserve to go in because they've won the last 4 games, and I think they've only beaten 2 teams with a winning record, 3 of them are. So there's a reason they're not in. Stop complaining.
Yeah,
every game matters.
But yeah, the Broncos kind of waited so long. It's been 9 years since they were in the playoffs. They've got through to the other side now of that disastrous Russell Wilson trade. They're going to come out of that dead cap space soonish. I mean, next year, I guess they got to live with it a little bit. But I think $90 million is dead against the cap. Everyone thought Sean Payton was a has-been. Bo Nix was the quarterback in the draft that people were laughing at. The last of the ones drafted in the first round. But they've delivered 10 wins in the playoffs for the first time since they won the Super Bowl, since they won Super Bowl 50 with Peyton Manning. Yeah, a lot to love. Particular highlight again was the triple deflection, bobble, touchdown, catch in the back of the end zone, which felt like a very Chiefs play. Like that would be one that would fall for the Chiefs usually, I think. But fell for the Broncos in this case. And yeah, just real solid. Cortland Sutton got his for his incentive. Marvin Mims got a couple of touchdowns. That was one of the bets. That was a bet that you cashed, Byron Mims. I think he just one touchdown.
I wish I was Byron Mims.
Yeah, he got 2. Marvin Mims. Did I just call him Byron Mims?
Well, you said it's one of the ones you cashed, Byron Mims, and I was like, I wish I was Byron Mims. E.g., I wish I was his husband. It's mine. If I need to spell it out.
I would say on this game as well, the Chiefs played very vanilla, very basic defense, and I think that's really clever because obviously Spags, he knows what he's doing. But if the Broncos beat the Bills, then they're playing the Chiefs, so they don't want to give anything away. The Broncos are not going to put. Yeah, if Broncos go through, they're not going to play anyone else. So why give away what you're going to do to Bo Nix in a meaningless game for you?
And also, good luck slowing down Bo Nix and Marvin Mims with your fancy schemes. Just take your medicine. You know what's coming.
And also, just one note on the Chiefs. Not the Chiefs, just I never need to see Carson Wentz on an NFL field.
Back in runway, sure. But
yeah,
NFL field, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know who the Chiefs' leading receiver was in this game?
I've got the stats up, so I won't spoil it. But yeah,
I've already heard he's someone who I've never heard of.
Yeah, it sounds like he should be out shooting assassins. To be fair, Nico Remigio. Not shooting assassins, shooting CEOs. Okay, sounds like Luigi Mangiano. But yeah, Nico Remigio is a great NFL wide receiver name. But yeah, 248 was Nico's day of work yesterday. Again, I have no idea who he is. I think he might be a kick returner. I think I've seen his name on like anytime betting things like once or twice this season and didn't have a clue who he was then. Don't really have much more of a clue now.
Yeah, we'll get the Kansas City Chiefs A team, no doubt, for the divisional round, and we'll see who they host. But yeah, well done. Congrats to the Broncos. Good to see after kind of how crap it's been for them. Recently, it's a good turnaround and a good job from Sean Payton, I think. Next up then, Joe, your underdog was the Vikings. Obviously, we've talked about that game beating 31-9. So you went 2-2 for a record on the year of 34, 37-1. So just a couple back from 500. I also went 2-2, finishing 42, 27-3 on the year. So fairly respectable 60-something%, 60-odd percent, or something like that while we're talking about the game. And this game, my over was a trend of overs that I bet this week and that didn't hit, of one team in the game getting into the red zone, God knows how many times, and not fucking scoring. I had this in Bengals Steelers because the Bengals just fell apart in the red zone. Cowboys just could not score in the red zone, and the aforementioned Vikings, they just held up their end of the bag and even gone like 50% in the red zone. I probably cash all three overs. But Commanders win 23-19. Crazy. Washington Commanders have got 12 wins, which is astonishing stuff, really, isn't it? Considering kind of where they were coming from. Second pick, taking Jaden Daniels in the draft. But 12 wins, I think this is far beyond anybody's kind of wildest. We said earlier in the season, going, well, they might get to 10, maybe 11, but 12-5 is incredible stuff from the Washington Commanders.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know he's not going to get it, but Dan Quinn, to me, should probably be in the Coach of the Year consideration, considering where they came from. And they didn't really make any big off-season splashes off the top of my head as well. It was a lot of, we talked about this at the time, was like lowering the floor to like a competent level. There was no like big splashes. It was a lot of like, oh yeah, that guy can do a job. That guy can do a job. And yeah, to put it all together, and credit to Cliff Kingsbury, because again, he took a lot of criticism midway for the Kingsbury dip, and I think he's got it back on track for the most part. The offense is looking functional again, and that was around the same time that Jaden Daniels had his rib injury. So I think with everything that's got on there, I think it's a great coaching job by Dan Quinn to get 12 wins is tough to believe, really,
and especially how he left the Cowboys as well. That he was getting a lot of the stick for that Cowboys pummeling at the hands of the Packers in the wildcard round last year, and then obviously gets that job with the Commanders. Not particularly inspiring choice, I think, when it was announced, last year or early this year. Early last year, but got the job done.
Yeah, and obviously Jane Daniels did get taken out, but it sounds like he's going to be fine for the playoffs. Because I think the Cowboys defense came out to play. They're absolutely swarming him, and Parsons was showing why he's certainly in the top 2 or 3 defenders in the league. And I think Dan Quinn just said, well, we realize on offense we're going to have to run the QB a bit more, so let's Marcus take his hits rather than Jane Daniels, and it led them on the game-winning touchdown drive to win it, and it helps them out because they jump the Rams, so they go in the 3rd seed, so they play the Bucs instead of the Vikings. Which
they were trying to keep the 6th seed.
Yeah, so they're into 6. Yeah.
The way it was looking at one point, the Packers were going to jump them for 6 because the Cowboys were winning late. The Packers were winning late.
I was thinking of the other teams. Yep.
Yeah, Commanders would have gone to the Eagles, but instead they're going to the Bucs now,
which something makes it more interesting.
Yeah, which should be a great game. I say rematch of Week 1, as we've already mentioned.
I was going to say shout out to Terry McLaurin. He's had another great year, and actually having a good quarterback for once. It's shown why he's top there. I think he came second in the amount of touchdowns. I think he got 13 this year. So another good season, which was scary.
And just a quick one on Cowboys. We had a Trey Lance outing, so we were wondering, is at some point Trey Lance going to get some action, knowing that obviously the season's gone and we know what Cooper Rush can do. And then I feel like we saw Trey Lance, so Jerry didn't have to pay Cooper Rush some extra money.
I didn't know that was his incentive.
That Foghorn Leghorn joining the show.
Yeah,
that was a good Jerry.
Nothing bad. Yeah, but the fact he's like, oh, I didn't know his incentives. Like, and you're supposed to be the GM. Literally 2 days ago, you were like, no one else can do the job better than me. I'm going to be the GM. But then you don't know incentives. It's like, come on, we know why you did it.
Full of shit, Jerry. Yeah, unbelievable.
You think Mike McCarthy's safe then?
Well, Mike McCarthy might tell Jerry to fuck off. So he's going to interview for the Bears job while still head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
He's got 2 weeks left of his contract, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Bears have asked permission for the Cowboys to speak to Mike McCarthy and interview him. And I would actually be going, yeah, I want that interview. Jerry, shove your job is what I'd be doing if I was Mike McCarthy.
Likewise. I mean, you think you're a dysfunctional franchise with the Bears?
No.
Can't be many worse than Dallas right now. Old man won't let go of the fucking till.
And I imagine that wouldn't go down well in Chicago if Mike McCarthy was the head coach. But we've been, I think, rightly critical of Mike McCarthy at times. You know what? Given what's been going on, I think he's done okay. This kind of since Dak's gone down, I think he's done a pretty good job in terms of most of the time keeping the Cowboys competitive in games, leading Cooper, because he does lead the offense, leading Cooper Rush to wins again. Like, he's done that time after time when Dak's been hurt and Rush has had to come in. So I think he's managed to keep as much of his reputation intact as possible given the circumstances in Dallas.
Yeah, the players have played for him as well. I think if the players had given up, he would have known. I think it's like the season basically ended when Dak went down. So the fact that the players are still playing, big for him, even like in this game, I think that helps his cause. Sorry, Byron, cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, I almost feel like his reputation's better now than it was this time last year. Oh, well, when he got kicked out of the playoffs last year. I do think, though, to be getting an invite for a head coaching interview, he must have a good agent. Because I wouldn't be rushing to interview him, I must say. I think he's done an okay job. And it kind of reminds me of what we just said about the Washington players they brought in. Like, Mike McCarthy will raise your floor, but I don't think he's going to, I'd want someone with a higher upside, but I can understand it. Is Chicago wanting to speak to him? Why not, I guess? He's got a good record against Chicago, which in, some organizations, that's enough to stand out as a great coach. Not that you were really bad all them years. Must be like McCarthy's great. It's like, maybe. Probably not, though.
Well, they did beat the Packers this week, and Matt McCarthy wasn't there, so hey.
Caleb Williams unbeaten in Lambeau.
We'll get on to that at some point. But yeah, my worry for the Cowboys is that this is just going to drag on with McCarthy and all these other good coaches that would potentially maybe like to come to Dallas. I don't know if anybody would actually like, but think, there's a lot of talent there. I can do some stuff with it. They're already going to be potentially taken, and then they're just trying to find somebody then, and it's just going to be another mess. Yeah. But hey-ho. Commanders 12-5, Cowboys finish 7-10, and off to the playoffs the Commanders go. I was on the Jets as the underdog, and they won outright. I was on Seahawks, Rams under 38.5. I thought it was going to be a struggle, especially with Jimmy G playing. The Rams actually did okay. Jimmy G actually played pretty well, really, considering we haven't seen him for such a long time. But the Seahawks win 30-25. Gino got his 10 wins for his $2 million and got his 180 odd yards that he needed for $2 million. So $4 million for Gino, but he didn't cover the fucking spread.
No, but he did cover the under. So, I don't know if you've seen Mike McDonald's quote about Gino this morning as well. I wasn't impressed with it. Ryan Grubb lost his job.
He did, yes.
The Seahawks offensive coordinator 1 year, and you're done. Mike McDonald, I don't know if he expects Geno Smith to return as his QB. Got no reason to say no, so I guess yeah. Geno Smith is not the fucking problem here, buddy.
Yeah.
Mike McDonald's going to make the shit list.
Yeah. That line's a problem for sure. Would help if they, protected him a little bit. 10-win season and not making the playoffs. I think I'm pretty unlucky, really.
Yeah, totally agree. They had a better point differential than the Rams, not by much, but they did. I think, when you lose out on strength of winning opponent. Like, you've got to feel a bit hard done by, ultimately.
I'm guessing the issue is obviously they play the backups in this game.
Yeah.
The Rams, so it's hard to say they would have had 10 wins if.
Yeah, if the Rams needed this, then yeah. And to be fair, the Rams did have something to play for.
Yeah.
Playoff seeding.
Yeah, it's really they took it so unseriously.
I think McVay is just one of them head coaches where he's not worried about anyone. He's just worried about his own game. And yeah, I think have the Rams played? So the Rams have got the Vikings, right?
Yes, the Rams beat the Vikings on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, so
halfway point, maybe week 7, week 8, maybe. And also, the Rams have played the Lions close, so they played them week 1, didn't they? And they played them in the playoffs last year and played them close twice. So there might be an element of that to it. Is that actually we match up pretty well against these teams? So the week off for Stafford and co is worth it because we'll give them teams. We can beat those teams.
And I think McVay is always good when he plays the teams twice because he gets to know their defense. Where he probably didn't want to play a team who he's never seen before, so probably like the Commanders or something like that, where it's more of a and he's Kevin O'Connell is former student, so he probably knows that how that works as well. So yeah, I just really care. And I think with Stafford, just how he's been looking, it looks like he needed a rest. So why not?
Yeah. Just crazy one. Seahawks won 7 out of 8 road games and have missed the playoffs.
Wild.
Like, if you said that at the start of the season, I'd have been going, well, that's a 12, 13 win team at least.
Yeah, I think their over-under was 8.5, which I called disrespectful. I mean, obviously that was right on covering. But if you then said, well, they're going to win 7 road games, it'd be like, whoa. But like you said, it's going to be the 1 seed or 2 seed, not in the playoffs. Yeah. But odd season for the Seahawks.
Yeah, but essentially something to build from for Mike McDonald for sure. And Rams are going to be dangerous in the playoffs for sure. Host the Vikings next week on Monday Night Football. I hate Monday Night Football in playoffs. I'll tell you about that next week in the preview. My favourite was the Chargers. Chargers won by 14, 34-20. Chargers took advantage of the Steelers losing on Saturday night to end up being the 5th seed, so we avoid a Harbaugh Bowl against the Ravens, and the Chargers probably got this is the one game the wildcard teams wanted. I think they got the Texans on the road, who obviously have just been limping along for ages. But Chargers again just took care of business. Really, solid on the ground again. Herbert looked good. Quentin Johnston went off 13 catches for 186 yards. Lad McConkey, another strong game. Just all pretty solid performance all around from the Chargers.
Yeah, just took care of business. Gave up 20 points, which maybe a bit more than you'd expect against the Raiders, but the game was well in hand. It never felt like they were in any kind of struggle here. So well set for next week. I haven't looked at the lines for next week yet, but I'd have them as favourites against the Texans wherever the game is.
3-point favourites on the road against the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, they look better on all phases of the game. So, we're not surprised by that. And then, very good first season for Jim Harbaugh. Yeah,
11 wins. I thought there would be a bit of a turnaround. Not quite this. He just wins wherever he goes, doesn't he? And incredible stuff. 11-6. Potentially a bit of a softer schedule. Might be a bit tougher next year, but we'll see. We shall see. Raiders 4-13. Antonio, not heard anything on Antonio Pierce being fired yet?
He said he expects to come back. He hasn't heard anything otherwise. So, and he said Oakland. Vegas, not the most functional of organizations, but I don't think you'd really want Antonio Pierce out doing his post-season press conference and then fire it. It doesn't look right. But,
they're stuck again, aren't they? Like, because they obviously a couple of wins they picked up recently.
Yeah.
They're not going to be in the. I think they're going to, at the best, maybe end up taking the 3rd quarterback in the draft. And I don't, where they are, I don't think you should be taking the 3rd quarterback there. Maybe,
or you trade up.
Trade up, that's going to cost you a lot.
Or certainly prior to yesterday, my theory has been there's going to be some rube in the tag and trade for Sam Darnold who gives a fucking way too early pick to take Sam Darnold and his contract on, and Raiders was my guess at that. But I think last night might have killed that market a little bit. You never know. Obviously, see what the playoffs bring for Darnold, and it's one game, but it's one game on the back of 5 years as well.
There's some potential. There's just some stopgap maybe for a year that's better than Aiden O'Connell, I guess. I don't know. Kirk. I don't know.
Isn't it? Yeah. Haven't we said this about the Raiders for the last 5 or 10 years? It feels like they always get stopgaps. But
I feel like this was winning only 4 games. You'd have been like, right, we'll be in position to get a quarterback if we only win 4 games. Well, there's fucking so many bad teams.
Yeah. I better be kicking because it sounded like they were going to get Penix Jr. That was the destination in the draft before the Falcons surprised everyone. They must be kicking themselves. It didn't happen.
Yeah. But they get Brock Bowers though, which of course he's had a stunning season. Incredible stuff from Brock Bowers. Another 4 grabs, and Jacoby Myers got to 1,000 yards. He had a big game as well. Kind of just a solid, pretty solid season when you've been bouncing between O'Connell and Minshew, and Desmond Ridder's been in for a start. So yeah. Raiders 4-13. See what the future holds for them. Chargers 11-6, and in the playoffs against the Texans next week. 2-2 for me. Byron, your disaster of a fourfold 0-4. Saturday night it started. Just touched on this game earlier. Bengals, Steelers. Bengals won 19-17, and we didn't quite get the high-scoring affair shootout that we were hoping for. Bengals red zone struggles. Partly to blame for that, and Pittsburgh were just completely anemic on offense again. What was going on with George Pickens? Just easy balls he was just dropping.
Yeah, he wasn't impressed in the media beforehand. I don't know if you've seen this. I think it was on Friday when on the prior week against the Chiefs, there's been a miscommunication between him and Russ, and they said, "Oh, Russ said there was miscommunication between you last week." And he said, "Well, who said that?" He's like, "Russell Wilson." And he's like, "Oh, is that what he said?" He's like, "Yeah, that's what he said." And he's like, "Oh, okay," and just walked away. I think there's a reason George Pickens fell in the draft, and it's because of his maturity or lack thereof. And it seems like you get good George Pickens or you don't. And Mike Tomlin's got a history of sorting these characters out, especially wide receivers over his history, but Pickens looks like he needs some managing on a weekly basis to get the best out of him, and I'm not sure. To a degree, I'm not sure Mike Tomlin has the want to do it anymore. Like, to fucking babysit these wide receivers, it must be difficult because your offense doesn't function without George Pickens, but fuck me, it must be annoying, like, just on a weekly basis.
But is it the Steelers without a diva wide receiver?
But you can deal with it if the diva wide receiver is Antonio Brown and he's the best wide receiver in football. When he's a diva wide receiver and he's good when he wants to be, but he's still never elite, it's like, what's the fucking point? I've seen a description of this, which it's a little vulgar, I guess, but it made me laugh an awful lot. It's from someone, I don't even know what they're actually called because they've got a weird name on Blue Sky, but is the Steelers play offense like someone trying to shit with half an asshole. It just seems so pointlessly difficult, which I just absolutely loved because it does. It just seems like so overly complicated and so difficult for no good reason. Like, they don't seem to do anything well. And it's so wild because, through the first 5 games of the season or so, it was like, oh, wow, he's getting a tune out of Justin Fields. The next half dozen games, like, oh, wow, he's took the big call and he's getting great football out of Russell Wilson. And then at the last third, it's been like, oh, fucking hell, this is depressing as shit. Fire Mike Tomlin, the offense sucks, everybody hates you. And again, I think that's ludicrous, obviously. You're paying $2 million roughly for your quarterback room, or maybe a little more, but certainly league minimum for your quarterback room. It's not going to be perfect. I understand to a degree fans' frustrations at being one and done every year. That would grate on me as well at a certain point, but not in the thing of we should fire the fucking all-timer head coach. Just, it's got to be tiring for fans as well. You used to being the Steelers and winning regular Super Bowls, and they don't look like they're close to doing it, but they're so competitive that, they kind of box themselves out every year. I don't know what their plan at quarterback is for next year, because I wouldn't want it to be Russell Wilson if I was them. I wouldn't want it to be Justin Fields, but I don't think they have the flexibility. Well, they're not going to pick someone in the draft because they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
you're just hoping for someone like, no one thought the Ravens were going to get a new quarterback, but they got Lamar Jackson at 31. Well, obviously that doesn't happen every year. Yeah. Even with, I think Roethlisberger was mid-teens when they got him.
Yeah, it might have been 10, but yeah, it's like not late anywhere.
Yeah, so it's tricky for them.
Eagles have lost 4 straight. They've lost 4 straight as an underdog.
Steelers.
Steelers.
Eagles.
The Steelers, yeah. So they lost 4 straight. All those times they're an underdog, and I don't believe they're covered.
No.
How many points start, if you've not seen it already, do you think they're getting next week against the Ravens in the wildcard round?
Oh, it's in Baltimore. 8.5.
Joe?
10.
It is 10, yeah. Steelers are 10-point underdogs.
What's Mike Tomlin like as an underdog in the playoffs?
I'm not doing it. I'm not playing the game anymore.
Against an NFC North opponent, etc., etc. Against Lamar. They always feel like they beat Lamar.
Yeah, we'll see on Thursday with these polls. No problem.
Yeah.
I know you're not doing it, but yeah, we'll see you on Thursday with them.
Quick one on the Bengals. Possibly the greatest quarterback season that's not resulted in a playoff appearance in Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase, Triple Crown winner. They had a big game again, 10 receptions, 96 yards and a touchdown. And I think they're just firing people indiscriminately today, the Bengals. It's Lou, the defensive coordinator, Lou Amruno, plus several position coaches have all been fired today. How much pressure is Zach Taylor under next year then? Like, if they go 3 years in a row without making the playoffs with that talent, surely he's done, right, Zach Taylor?
I'd say the only issue is not issue for him is that it's in Cincinnati, and they love just to they don't like to spend money, they don't like to make changes. And I think the owners are really good friends with Zach Taylor. They've got like a really good relationship. So I would say he's under pressure, but I don't know. It just feels like the Bengals just don't do that kind of thing where it depends how the season goes. Obviously, if it's a disaster, then. But if they do something similar to this year, would I be surprised if they keep him on for another year? No, just because it's Cincinnati, who they are, to be honest. And yeah, I can see him being there for a few more years. A bit like who was the previous head coach? I can't remember his name.
Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, he was like there forever, and they had like disastrous stretches, but obviously they didn't have Joe Burrows for that long. But
they have Carson Palmer. I mean,
yeah. But I'm curious. I'm more curious, not the Zach Taylor effect. What would Joe Burrow say if they don't make the playoffs again 3 years in a row in his prime? I know he's just got a big contract, but would there start being grumblings like, "This is not good enough. I want to get out of here"?
It's an interesting one because, like, it is a life of being a Bengal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't remember who I was having this discussion with recently on social media, but like, it's like any good organization, Zach Taylor would be out, never mind on the hot seat already. It's like, yeah, but the Bengals aren't. The Bengals are like a mom and pop organization. They're not one of your cutthroat. Everything must be the best of the best, and the draft is a great thing, obviously, but like, kind of sucks if you are a Joe Burrow and you just get tied into this organization, because then obviously you do sign the contract unless you're very bold and really want to bet on yourself. But even then, like with the 5th-year extension, the franchise tag, you're talking the first 7 years of your career before you can realistically hit the market. So you're kind of just tied to like, hopefully things get better for me.
They did make the Super Bowl.
They did, yeah. Back in 21, but yeah.
I've seen one Joe Burrow stat again in a sea of many this season that I just thought was absolutely incredible. In the red zone this season, Joe Burrow was 29-0, touchdowns to interceptions, which, there's an awful lot of good Joe Burrow stats this year, but I think that might be my favorite. That is just absolutely just incredible. In 17 games, 29 touchdowns, no interceptions in the red zone is.
It was a very, very Bengals game, this one, where I dominated the Steelers and the Steelers had the ball to win it. And it would have been the most Bengals thing was to actually lose it, because they've done that in a few games where I think Burrow's been outstanding, but there's been a few games where he's had the ball to win it and he hasn't. That's why I've never had him as the MVP, similar to Lamar and Josh, especially Josh Allen, because it feels like he's won the big games and he's put it on his back. Well, I know it doesn't help having a shocking defense for the Bengals, but they weren't amazing against the Steelers. And it was actually the defense who stepped up this game. It was a weird one, but the Steelers still had it to win it. It was This could be, if he get with all the stats, triple crown. Hendrickson got another 3.5 sacks, so he's leading sack. Leading sack defender. So I wonder if he will he get defensive player of the year. It's a weird year to have all the accolades, but not even make the playoffs.
Yeah, so the late surge wasn't enough. To what was it to get from 4-8 to 9-8? Is that what it was? They won the last 5.
Yeah,
yeah, wasn't enough for the Bengals. Damage done earlier in the season, and you could point to any one of those wins, but I think any one of those defeats that's ultimately cost them. But I think the one you go all the way back to week 1, the New England Patriots at home, you get beat by them in week 1. You have that win like you should. You're in. Like, you can point to any of those wins. So, they found different ways to lose games, didn't they? But I think that's the one all the way back to week 1. They weren't prepared, pissing about with T. Higgins and chasing Black. And that, one wins kept them out. Steelers, rough. I think it's going to be rough. And I think we're going to hear the Tomlin noise again, which is crazy. But, it's likely going to be a 6th playoff appearance in a row where they're beaten in the wild card round. I'll beat the first time of asking, at least. For the Steelers. They play the Ravens next week on Saturday prime time. I thought for sure that would be the Sunday prime time game, but I guess because the Steelers and Ravens both played Saturday this week, it made sense for them to keep on Saturday. Where are we? Yeah, you had the Bucs as big favourites against the Saints, Byron. Obviously, they didn't cover. You had the Niners to cover as underdogs. They didn't. And you had under 45... Under 45 in Jags, Colts. And, this one had hit the over before overtime, but we got some bonus football in Indianapolis. 26-23. I think the story, though, is Colts are keeping hold of Chris Ballard, which I think is astonishing at GM. Shane Steichen, I think we've both got kind of discussed, made cases for and against keeping Shane Steichen.
Yeah.
But Chris Ballard keeping his job after this team just fails time and time and time again.
He's got some on Jim Irsay. He's got some photos or some emails and
what could you have on Jim Irsay that isn't public?
There'll be some stuff where he's forced to sell the team, like a few other owners have had at some point. I think it's crazy.
Absolutely mind blowing though. I don't know how you do it. I don't know what you expect. How do you expect things to get better, I guess? But are they bothered about things getting better? Or is Jim Irsay just happy turning up every week? I really don't know. It's hard to believe they want improvement if this is the way they're going about it.
I think, obviously, the plan is for 2025. And I've expressed my criticisms of Anthony Richardson on a fairly regular basis. They're going to go into next year going, we're going to see if Anthony Richardson's our guy. Yeah. Have you not seen enough?
I think the most troubling...
It's just because I don't know if they have.
Yeah, and I think the most troubling thing is the stories which have come out the locker room this week about Anthony Richardson, where there's been a few players, I think Buckner said, he went up to him and said, I re-signed because I believed in you. And basically, you're not acting like a leader.
Yeah,
and he's turning up late and all this kind of stuff. Where, I know he's not a rookie quarterback, but he's basically was his rookie season, and I think he needs to learn quickly for this whole organization. And it's just I find it weird because it's always was one more year, and then you think soon they're gonna get rid of some people. And I think I messaged you guys today. Probably a couple of weeks ago, I was expecting 8 to 10 firings, and especially GMs and head coaches. And there's been, I know 3 were mid-season, so it's a bit weird that there has been 5. But I was thinking 10, 11, because there's a few of these where it's they felt like dead in the water, and I felt, how they haven't got rid of the GM after. I think his record's shocking. I don't think they've even made the playoffs, and it's just
was last time they made the playoffs with Phil Rivers?
Probably.
I think so, yeah.
And have they even drafted well? I'm just trying to think of who they've drafted who's been a home run hitter. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor, but he's been up and down.
Yeah, I think you'd call JT a good pick in the second round.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in first round hits. I mean, I think you'd have to go back to Quentin Nelson as and he was like an obvious. You know, you putting the gold jacket on him when he's getting drafted. Essentially, Quentin Nelson, it was his position that meant he got drafted.
I think
not
Zaire Franklin's turned into a pretty good player. I think he was a 6th or 7th round pick. So
yeah,
but his behaviour at the end of the game was interesting after the win. So obviously, kind of McAfee kicked all this off after the Giants game about kind of the culture stuff, and he's got people on the inside. People in that locker room will be talking to him. He usually attends every single game, and he's got a little suite in the end zone, and it's usually full of people from his show and things like that. It was empty this week. And then speaking of Zaire Franklin, as he was coming off the pitch, and he was going like slapping hands with fans and stuff like that, sarcastically ran over to McAfee's empty box and kind of give it a round of applause. And that's probably another just insight in terms of kind of where this team is from a leadership and culture perspective. Yeah,
you had 8 and 9. I think that's the thing. Just take your humble pie.
Yeah,
there's not big good on you.
I'd have blown it up, and I don't think that would necessarily been fair on Shane Steichen. But
if you had to get rid of all or get rid of nothing, I'd rather see them get rid of everything.
Yeah, I think maybe you just need to kind of blow this up. But yeah, Colts 8 and 9, and the Jaguars half did that. Doug Peterson gone after 3 seasons, but GM stays. And a weird thing that came out today from Rappaport, was it Schefter? I think it was Rappaport. The new head coach will report directly to owner Shad Khan, not the GM, as is in every other NFL organizational structure. So why
except
the hell?
Jerry Jones.
Except for the Cowboys. Why the hell would anybody want this job in Jacksonville?
Well, I think there was a report. I think it might have been, was it Schefter? Again, someone said maybe a week or so ago that there's been a lot of coaches said, I'll not go to Jacksonville if Trent Baalke is the GM. And I think Shad Khan, he put the feelers out and heard that, but then he's like, oh, I don't care. He's just about, this is why there's certain teams that are always terrible, and Jags are one of them. They had one good year, but there's a reason you can't, it's not the head coach, well, he hires the head coaches. It's just because of bad ownership, and it just, it's probably going to get stunned in there for some AEW kind of, some of the GM's going to come out like halfway through the draft. But it's just a joker organization, everyone. And I just feel sorry for the fans, and because I think I saw a lot of criticism and not happy Jags fans today.
Yeah. Understand. So one person I do feel sorry for is Brian Thomas Jr. He's gonna be a really good wide receiver and just not have a sniff at winning playoff games. And so I feel sorry for him. He's had an incredible rookie season, another 100-yard game, 7 receptions. He's going to become another one who's just quarterback proof, almost. Like, it doesn't matter who's back there, he's going to produce. And that's we talked about Miami a little bit and how those wide receivers, Tyreek and Waddle, haven't been able to do that. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be quarterback proof, and no matter who's there slinging the ball, he's going to get his production. And one hell of a play. It's just a shame he's at such a sad place. And fucking shame that we're going to have to watch them play twice again in London inevitably, because that's what's going to fucking happen. And I'm going to be at another fucking Jacksonville Jaguars game.
At least you'll be watching Brian Thomas, though.
At least we're watching Brian Thomas, yeah.
I think, George kind of mentioned it there. I think you've got to shout out, though, Trent Baalke is like, what a survivor. His career resume in the NFL, he ran Jim Harbaugh at the 49ers, promoted Jim Thomasula, who was 1 and done after a 5-11 season, hired Chip Kelly, who was 1 and done after a 2-14 season, fired by the 49ers eventually, gets the GM job for the Jaguars, hires Urban Meyer, who was fired at 2-11, hires Doug Peterson, who, fired after a couple of seasons and was dead midway through this one, let's be fair, sticks around to do the next head coach. I do not understand it. Like, this is multiple organizations where he's got a chance to get his claws in and be destructive. I do not understand. And the talk was last week that if it was a clean sweep in Jacksonville, Ben Johnson was very interested in going there. You get to work with Trevor Lawrence, who, for better or worse, is certainly a skilled quarterback and, is relatively revered around the league. You get the Florida weather, you get the Florida taxes. I can see why that would be appealing if you're an offensive head coach and you get Brian Thomas, like you previously mentioned. No chance Ben Johnson takes an interview with Trent Baalke.
Yeah, this is who they're going to get. They're going to get some like tired, washed head coach who's been fired elsewhere, who's not going to get a job up anywhere else.
I think, this is going to be the head coach that's the hire that's been like, who's maybe like everyone's second or third choice. Who's not quite.
Who did the Jets say no to? But yeah.
Ron Rivera. That's what I'm shouting now.
Riverboat Ron, but tough times ahead for the Jacksonville Jaguars, 4-13, and Colts. It's just these AFC South GMs; they just hold something over the owners. Not sure what it is, but enough about that. I was spent far too long talking about those two shambles of organizations.
Best great to be a Houston Texans fan.
Yeah,
being in the division with them three other teams right now.
We'll stick with the South, but the NFC South for the next games. But just to line up, our guest went 2-2, Jenny. So the Seahawks winning, not cover, let her down. She had the Panthers +8 against the Falcons, who won outright in overtime. Feels like the Panthers have been to overtime a lot. Is that like 4 games, maybe the Panthers overtime games the Panthers have had? Certainly 3, isn't it? They went over. Who did they go overtime with? They went overtime with the Bucs.
Yeah.
Won in overtime not long ago and won in overtime again. Anyway, 44-38. I didn't see this coming. I had this as an under because the Panthers have been real rough the last few weeks. 44-38. I suppose we've got to talk about the Falcons side of things first. Obviously, the Falcons needed to win. I mean, in the end, it wouldn't have mattered. But late in both games, the Saints were still in it. The Falcons obviously kind of, had the opportunities to win. And again, Penix played pretty well. Offense was good. Drake London was great. I shouted him out as the Fantasy Gameday tip. Stupidly, we didn't put him in the team. 10 receptions, 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bijan 170 yards on the ground, another 2 touchdowns. And all that still wasn't enough to beat the Carolina Panthers.
No, Bryce Young went 5 touchdowns all purpose, 2 on the ground, 3 through the air. Talk about bouncing back from adversity earlier in the season. My word. Just a bit of a ding. This felt like a game that didn't matter, weirdly. Which I guess it ultimately didn't because the Bucs did win. It was just like what you hope for a Week 18 game of just like, back and forth, sling it around, get 2 promising young quarterbacks playing well. But all of that's under the umbrella of, for the Falcons, but this was a must-win game, guys. Like, how are you this fucking sloppy in Week 18? I don't think Raheem Morris necessarily should have been fired, but I think he's kind of lucky that Penix has worked out so well in the first few weeks that I think it's took the pressure off him being replaced, because I think he's had a really poor first year, I must say, as a coach.
The Falcons were 6-3.
Yeah.
I think we should maybe take some responsibility for this. Good teams and great teams cover. The Atlanta Falcons were 6-3, heading into Week 10, playing the Saints, who just fired Dennis Allen, and we had the Atlanta Falcons UK guys on as a guest for the preview, and then it kind of fell apart from then.
Well, that sounds like a Falcons UK guy's problem, not ours. The Falcons do collapse. That's kind of what's in their DNA. Sean Payton, like, we're not the ones who went 28-3.
I'm just saying, I feel like, maybe we should be accountable for the influence we have on the NFL world. That's all.
We'll try and be more positive with it next year then,
Penix good, though. I think, I think Kirk will go. I kind of had that kind of lingering over. Kirk's never really got going. I had like one good stretch, didn't he, for 3 or 4 weeks, and then it's kind of, he had a real bad run. And it was the defense that let them down in this one. It kind of feels like every game, one side of the ball's played well for the Falcons, and the other, it's just not been complimentary football all the way through the season.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the thing about the Falcons, they've got the pieces there for, they've got number one wide receiver, one of the best running backs who hit nearly 1,500 yards, which would have been, we would have been celebrating if we didn't have Derrick Henry and Saquon. And then now they've got a young quarterback, which makes the NFC South a bit exciting because I think Bryce Young played amazing as well, and he's been very great the last second half of the season. Made a huge turnaround. We just think back week 2 he got benched or week 3? It was very early. Yeah, when he got benched, and I think we all were like, "Oh, that could be. Is he going to get traded away? Is that his career done?" And now he's like, "Well, they've got the guy for next year. This should set up well. They need to build around him. Just both teams need to sort the defenses out, and they'll be so much more exciting." Because I don't know if you saw the Panthers. They finished the season conceding 534 points, which is the most ever in an NFL season. So
it's kind of wild. Just on a, they had the worst differential between points scored and points conceded, obviously in the NFL this season as well. Considering they had 5 wins and generally pretty positive. You look at the amount of 3 and 4 win teams there were, and they were giving up 11.3 points per game. The next closest was 10.4. The Browns, and they've kind of held on to that the entire season because they started so poorly. Like every week, that's kind of how I sort my power rankings, is how by the point per game difference, and they've never shifted from the bottom, despite improving as the seasons went along.
Well, Dave Carroll's done a good job of sailing through the choppy waters, I think. And interesting. I think the Panthers are going to be a popular. Oh, could they sneak in the playoffs? Shout for next year.
Is that going to be? Are you going to go back to last year's prediction? Of winning the division.
Worst from worst to first. Yeah,
it'll be a better shout than last year, though. I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
And they're picking 8 in the draft, which for the first time in 4 years is not the Falcons.
Yeah, get a good play there for sure. So Panthers +8 for Jenny as a underdog. She had the over in Saints Bucks and under in Dolphins Jets. So I guess finished with the same record as you, Byron. So 30, 40, and 2. So maybe they should be joining you in Taco Bell. We'll cover off the rest of the news and games, just light touch, because conscious is going to end up being quite a long episode. We'll start with Saturday night to the other games. We've talked about Steelers, Bengals already. Ravens seal the AFC North 35-10. The Browns hung around in this one for a fair bit. Their defense did okay. Bailey Zappi / DTR couldn't really do much. But Ravens win the division, host the Steelers. Lamar had another solid game. Derrick Henry kind of ended up breaking out late on in the game, didn't he? Kind of taking it over. But Ravens set. Could they do it? Where's the expectation for the Ravens? I feel like I've been bouncing up and down on them all year in terms of they're really good, they're okay.
Well, I don't know if you saw the big injury news that Zay Flowers is going to be out for the first round of the playoffs.
Is he? I think he was day-to-day, but that's now changed.
I saw something that he's probably going to miss this weekend and hopefully back the week after, which I think is big, obviously, being number 1. But they should still beat the Steelers without Zay Flowers. I think they've got enough. I think Mark Andrews had a great game. He suddenly just, now the fantasy season's over, he's decided to step up. And, you've still got Bateman's had a good year, and obviously having Derrick Henry. And it feels like he was in third down situations a lot more because of just his Hill injury. Keaton Mitchell looks a lot better, getting back as well. So I definitely expect it's one of them. You expect him to beat the Steelers, and then can there be the Bills, which will probably be the next game. It will be the next game, unless the Bills lose. That's where it's at, to be honest. And if they've got if they get Zay Flowers back, then they've got an opportunity. I think it's really between the 3. There's a few of us, but I expect them to. They're definitely one who could get to the Super Bowl. And, the Browns did what the Browns wanted, putting Bailey Zappi in to get the number 2 pick.
Yeah, Ken Dorsey, offensive coordinator, fired.
Before Sunday game started.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a problem. The news tomorrow as well, so interesting. I think they're in play for a quarterback. Deshaun Watson's Achilles injury I don't know if he's redone it and retorn his surgically repaired Achilles. There's not the detail come out about it, but they're saying what the setback is enough that he may miss the entire 2025 season. Now, I don't know if that's true to injury or they just want to kind of mothball him.
And I was reading, most franchises do, obviously, but they do have insurance against his salary for injury. Mm-hmm. So basically, they would get a lot of salary cap back if he does miss a season. So kind of feels a bit like, I don't say money laundering, but maybe just like, you're not going to play again for us. Let's just make sure you're not fit to play for us. You get your money. We don't have to see you again. Piss off.
Wasn't getting his massages properly to help that Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Maybe just best for all parties, I think. So I certainly think Browns will be taking a quarterback at number 2. So yeah, Ravens roll on. AFC North champs host the Steelers as huge favourites. On Saturday night, and the Browns' second pick in the draft. The Patriots. This was interesting. So the Patriots beat the Bills outright, not only covering the 2.5 points. Dropped from first overall pick to 4th. Fired Jared Mayo instantly after the game. Is this too easy that this is Vrabel that's going to get this job?
Seems for everyone's opinion that'll be Mike Vrabel, but Ben Johnson is willing to go and interview with them, so I presume he thinks he's got a chance at it. Because again, talking earlier, Ben Johnson doesn't just go for the fun of it and for a free meal. So I'm not too sure.
He might be wanting to do that just after seeing Joe Milton play and be like, "Oh, I'd love to have that guy."
Yeah, possibly. I mean, what a performance! Out of nowhere, backflips, running, the biggest arm in the NFL. I mean, what could you do with that altogether?
He had a great game. I know it was against the Bills backups, but he had a great game.
And so did, and I've really enjoyed down the stretch. And again, you'll know him more from college than I will. Keyshawn Boutte.
Yeah.
A total dud of a rookie year, total dud of a final year in college, I believe, which led to him being a 6th, I believe, round draft pick. But you go back 3 years, and in Devy Fantasy League, where you're drafting college players to get them prepared for the, so they come straight onto your NFL roster in Dynasty. Keyshawn Boutte was going with maybe not Jamar Chase, maybe that's too late, but like Garrett Wilson's of the world, Chris Olave's, JSN, he was top of the ladder of LSU wide receivers coming out. I don't know exactly what happened with him. He obviously had a gambling suspension at some point, but I'm really intrigued to see what he does in 2025. Drake May, hard to say it'll be a worse offensive situation than it's been this year. So I think that's a little spark of something for the Patriots. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't think massive them moving down from 1 to 4. They've got their guy at quarterback. Drake May is obviously shown enough to know. We know that he's going to be the guy. So I think different if they were still searching for a quarterback.
I'm guessing it's there like a trade.
Yeah, they could have traded out for one. Yeah.
But I don't really get, everyone's like, oh, it's such a bad organization because they can't even lose to get the number 1 pick. And it's just like, well, the players play 17 games a year. A lot of them players are playing for the future. They're not going to be like, oh, I might not get a contract with this team. Someone else wants to look at me and go elsewhere. Oh, I'm going to help out the organization. It doesn't work that way. So I never get it's a terrible organization for moving out the first. All the players play to win. There's never a game that the team plays to losers.
Well, I mean, he tried to lose because he played 3rd string backup. I don't think Stevenson obviously didn't play. I think they tried, but the Bills just tried harder.
You can't contain Joe Milton
The Bills punting at the Patriots 35-yard line was great. One to, I suppose, you're not trying to win the game, but to get the punter in incentive, I thought was great from Sean McDermott.
Love it.
That was more important than winning the game. So, playing 4D chess, make sure your division rival doesn't get the number 1 pick and their biggest chance to improve in the quickest period of time. I don't think Sean McDermott is thinking that, or is he particularly worried about the New England Patriots? No. So Josh Allen continue his start streak, coming in for the 1 snap. Apart from that, it was Mitch Trubisky and the rest, wasn't it? But yeah, Patriots 4-13 without head coach. Kraft's has been out trying to justify it today.
Where they get it. I saw one bit where I was trying to justify because what happened in week 1 changed his estimation of what the season could be. So then he's disappointed how the season turned out because they beat the Bengals in week 1. I think something must have gone on in the background because it felt like Jared Mayo was the guy they were all going to get in for Bill Belichick throughout the last few years. He had a good relationship with Robert Kraft. Obviously, I know there was that first press conference, but I don't know. I just find something must have happened back to because you don't just fire him just because it's a terrible team. It was a terrible team last year.
Yeah.
And they've literally got the quarterback through the draft, but they didn't do anything in free agency. Yeah. They didn't change that team whatsoever. So what were they expecting? And it's his first year. You know, you look at some teams. Just look at Dan Campbell, for example. He went 3-13 in his first year. 3-13-1. So there's plenty of head coaches have terrible first years, but turn out good. I never agree with a head coach should be sacked after 1 year just because of the results. It would have to be to do with the culture or something in the background why you get rid of him after 1 year. I think you've at least got to give head coaches 2 or 3 years to see if they're actually good enough.
So in this situation, because it was so devoid of talent. I think there was expectations that the defense was going to be better, and we saw that in parts, but just didn't really hold up, did it? So Patriots looking, they're going to be looking for a third head coach in 3 years now. Belichick, Mayo, and Vrabel. It sounds like it's going to be. Although I'm sure the New England Patriots are going to have gone through the appropriate hiring process that they need to, and just weren't straight on the phone to Vrabes. But we'll see if that's the case. Bills 13-4 hosting the Broncos. My worry is you want competitive playoff games. My worry is the Bills just going to absolutely murder the Broncos next week.
I'm not so sure, I must say, actually. Yeah. What's the spread on that one already? Is that about 10 as well?
8.5.
I just think
8.5 for the last game.
Yeah.
I said 8.5 for this one.
I would just say Sean Payne.
I think the Broncos could stand with them. I think the Broncos do a lot of things the Bills won't want to see. Like Bo Nix running around is, on any given Sunday, I don't think it's a total blowout game anyway. Sorry.
Yeah. And we didn't see the Bills get the recorded with a 14th receiver to get off 13th play to get a receiving touchdown. But they did. I think they're the first team to do 30 receiving touchdowns and 30 rushing touchdowns. So a little bit of history for them.
You go say something, Joe. I feel like me and Paul both talked over you.
No. I was just going to say Sean Payton's probably one of the head coaches where if it's a one-off game, he can scheme up. So I think I'm really interested. I'm a bit worried about the Bills in that game. That can the Bills do one of them home games where they just can't put away a team and shit the bed, and that's why we get the Chiefs that get the Super Bowl fairly easy.
Well, if you're the Broncos, you want that number to get to -10 because that's when the Bills do fuck around as a home favourite. When it's 10 points or above, they really just do end up in real close games that they shouldn't be in.
Sorry, just one last thing. Josh Allen, like you say, keeping his streak alive. Someone tweeted this out from PFF over the weekend. I just thought this was fantastic. So Josh Allen extended his streak. Tom Brady has got the 10th, 11th, and 12th longest streak in NFL history. His first one was disrupted by his ACL tear. Then he had a suspension for Deflategate, and then it was the end of his career. But those were like his 3 streaks of playing football. It's the 10th, 11th, and 12th longest in the NFL, which I thought was just very cool.
Good stuff. Moving on, the Bears finally beat the Packers.
The Byron's Bears.
And shout out Kairos Santos with his Didier Drogba celebration afterwards, because that field goal did not look like it was going to go over.
No.
I thought we were going to be here again, that the Bears, just like in the return game, they had the chance to win and just, I mean, they did try and throw the game away. DJ Moore did with, I suppose, a mix of his fumble, but why are the Bears throwing the ball? Instead of trying to run it out that way. But yeah, they managed to get their ball back and a shot to win it. And over 51 yards, which usually isn't Kairos Santos' strength. It's not the longer kicks aren't his strength. But yeah, just about got it in the bottom front of the it's just a replay of it now. It's just about inside the post, and the Bears kind of break that streak. And Packers, I think, was worried. Jordan Love obviously got a bang, and they sat him, threatened to put him back in the game, but Christian Watson out, tore his ACL, and we saw them play the Vikings without Christian Watson last week and not really have a deep threat. And that's huge for the Packers, especially now they are the 7th seed. Because they've lost the last couple of weeks, going to Philadelphia. I think you need to have the threat, and they just don't have that now.
Yeah, it's tough to see how they beat the Eagles, truthfully. They're not playing on slip and slide in Brazil, so you haven't got that factor. I don't know what they do better than the Eagles, and the Eagles just had a week off as well. So yeah, I think this could be a bleak one and done for the Packers, who went 1-5 in the division, same as the Bears, which feels,
it's about right.
Not quite right.
Yeah,
because very different seasons.
Yeah, Packers kind of do feel like they do sit under, in just the NFC stacking anyway, where the Vikings and Lions are, or where the Eagles, Lions, Vikings are. I think they do sit at that next tier, don't they? 11 wins though, which is second year of Jordan Love. Missed games as well of injury, and 11 wins, so not to be sniffed at. Another good season for the Packers. Just don't feel like they're the threat in the playoffs that they might, that they kind of ended up being last year.
DJ Moore signed off the season, I thought, really well after the game as well. Did you see his quote post-game? Matt Grew for the Bears. I asked Bears wide receiver DJ Moore if this win in Green Bay does anything for the Bears in the big picture. DJ Moore replied, "We beat the Packers, fuck them." Which... love a rivalry.
Excellent, yeah. The Bears, 5-12, snap that 8-game losing streak. With 9? Yeah. No, 10? It's 10 in a row.
This would have been 10, I believe. Or did they get to 10?
No, they were 4-2, weren't they? So yeah. This would have been 11. Yeah. 5 and finally, Chicago Bears win that I wasn't at. So I was last one. So 5-12 on the season, and let's see who they end up with as head coach. They've been looking for one, I guess, for a while. Packers Eagles, as we've mentioned in the wild card round. Texans, Titans, again, we saw CJ Stroud for a little bit. Damian Pierce had a huge game, 176 yards on the ground. Felt like Texans were just playing just to try and get some rhythm going. And most importantly, Joe Mixon got his 1,000 yards on the ground. So that was good. Apart from that, nothing really much else to say apart from the Titans got the number 1 pick.
I think it worked out for the Texans quite perfectly. Start your starters, get some points on this bad Tennessee team, then pull them and still win. And go 2-0 against the Oilers jerseys.
Crazy decision. I know, I guess obviously they have this planned out before the season starts, what jerseys you're going to wear in what week, but I feel like maybe they should have pulled this, planning on doing it in week 18 against the Texans that have won the division in the playoffs, and you've got 3 wins.
And also, I know I mentioned it last week, so on our ATS, the Titans went 2-14-1, so they only covered the spread twice with our...
Officially, they were 2-15, which is the worst season ever against the spread. The 0-16 Lions went 3-13 against the spread, for record. Worst season in NFL history against the spread.
We also saw some flip-flopping between Will Levis and Mason Rudolph as well, both of which surely are not going to be there. Any longer. Question is head coach Brian Callahan?
I think they'll keep him. Yeah, I think they'll keep him. Yeah. But I don't know what they're going to do. I'm curious what they're going to do at quarterback. I don't know if so Will Levis was like, I think I should keep the job. And all that kind of stuff. And even his touchdown was crazy. Yeah. Where the Texans guy just looked like he was just going to intercept it. Yeah. I don't know what he was doing. And I don't know if you saw, I think he threw it to Ridley. And he was like, I think he threw it to Ridley and he was celebrating. But I think he did that because Ridley got 1,000 yards. But I think the play straight away afterwards is when he did the lateral and he got fumbled. And it just summed up the Titans and Will Levis' career as a Tennessee Titan. I think they've figured out that, Levis is not the is not the guy in Tennessee.
Yeah, they're going to have the pick. So if they think it's Shadir or if they think it's Cam Ward, it's going to be one of those two.
I've got a question. Do you think Shadir would go to Tennessee? Do you think it could be like an Eli Manning kind of thing if they try and draft him?
I think if there's a spot he really doesn't want to go, but the problem is it's going to be the Titans or the Browns. That's where he's going to land. I don't think he particularly is going to want to go to either of them. I just don't know if now pulling that sort of trick would work like it did for Eli, like it did for Elway.
Yeah.
I think the spot would have been the Giants. Mm-hmm. And maybe if the Giants have the number one pick, Daboll and the general manager go, and they go, we'll take Shadir and Dion and get a new GM. But it's not worked out like that. So the Giants, and we'll get to those in a second. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what the Titans do. I just don't think that situation will happen now. I would love for it for the drama because it'd be great content for us during the draft. Speaking of which, we'll go on. I suppose the next game we haven't talked about is the Eagles-Giants. Eagles 20, Giants 13. Giants 3-14. The win last week screwed themselves. Everyone screwed themselves out the number one pick. The Raiders did, the Giants did, the Patriots did. Nobody fucking wants it. And that might tell you about what's going on in this draft. Outside of Travis Hunter, might get a bit rough. 3-14. Daboll stays, GM stays. To be fair, that GM, as soon as that Hard Knocks preseason content came out of him talking to Saquon or Saquon's agent or whoever the fuck it was on the phone, he should have been fired there and then.
Yeah. Certainly helped drafting Darren Tracy and Neighbours. I think that's what saved his job, that they've had a good rookie year. And I did like how the owner was like, my patience has run out. Well, it's not run out that much, has it? Because you would have fired them. But I wasn't surprised. I thought they would keep Daboll just because his reputation, and he had a good first year. So I'm not surprised they kept him. They did have a good draft class. I'm curious. They just need to obviously get that quarterback in place, and because they've got some star players there. It's just a weird team where again they can't put it together. So we'll see. And on the flip side, go on, I'll let you go first.
So I was going to say, I think Brian Daboll deserves a crack at a job without Daniel Jones as his quarterback. The problem is who's behind door number 2, obviously, but it's not Daniel Jones. I think is kind of crucial.
They drafted 4, and those two are going to go. We mentioned Ward and Sanders. There's no way you take the third quarterback at 4. That would just be.
Yeah. You say that now. We didn't think there was going to be 5 going in the top.
Yeah, and that's just the desperation, isn't it? Of how valuable the quarterback position is that people are just willing to take. You know what? Worked out for the Broncos, taking the 5th one. JJ McCarthy might be good yet. Penix has looked good, so I might be an idiot here, but
it often doesn't, though.
Yeah, those 5,
by and large,
those 5 are better. And so Bo Nix as the 5th one is better than all of these ones, and that's before NFL. I'd say that just based on Bo Nix college. He is the 5th one. He's miles better than Cam Ward and Shadir.
What about draft? What about trading for JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold?
Then that could be an option as well.
Because I know there's the thing where they said if McCarthy was in this draft, he would go number 1 very easily.
I think McCarthy would. And I don't think McCarthy's going to be great. He might be great under Kevin O'Connell. He won't be great anywhere else. But that's just an opinion piece. And we're not talking about the 2024 draft. We're talking about the 2025 one. But yeah, they keep the job. The Giants finish 3-14. Eagles 14-3, another 14-win team in the NFC. And I think it worked out perfect. Just with obviously getting the Packers, but seeing the injuries as well to some of these big teams for them to be like. And I like when I was looking into it, the last time that their bye was week 5. Yeah, and they've been to Brazil.
Yeah, so it's it made a lot more sense when I saw that. I was like, yeah, week 5 is a long time ago. This teams who've had drafts like about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So rest your players. You've seen other teams, their star players getting injured. So I think it worked out for Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, and then physical football team. So a week off. Probably the right thing. So, yeah, that's the last game of the regular season that we'll talk about. We've covered all the rest of them. Joe, you comfortably won our ATS predictions. But I mean, I thought, did we not say whoever got the best record in week 18 was the winner, no?
No.
I can't claim that for the fourfold either. So I don't care.
Joe, you won 149, 116, and 7.
Not bad.
You'd have been real good if you just bet every single one of the games.
No, for next year.
Yeah. I had a rough week 18. So
I think that's 2 years in a row I've won the ATS, by the way.
Yeah. Mr. Consistent. Well done. Yeah. Good stuff. We're going to finish off with our Fantasy Game Day review of the winning team. The guys left me in charge of the Fantasy Game Day team this week, and we sucked, finishing 78th. But shout out to the Dynasty Island, who've got some great content available on their YouTube channel. A couple of obviously guys from the UK, of course, doing great. NFL Fantasy, Dynasty, all variety of fantasy competition content, so go check those guys out. But they won week 18 in the £7.50 OG Sunday Stars game of Fantasy Game Day with a score of 209.64. They went B. John's captain, Bo Nix, who had a great game, 4 touchdown passes. Jonathan Taylor was solid. A couple of cheap options that didn't really pan out for him. Blake Corum, knowing that the Rams were going to be sitting, and Gainwell, that Saquon wasn't playing. Really felt like Gainwell didn't play as well. He didn't really touch the ball a lot. Cortland Sutton obviously got his. Trey McBride continued his touchdown streak to end the season, and Drake London had a huge 40-point game as well. Pretty solid selection, and a lot of games there where people had lots to play for still.
Yeah, I think that's the trick. And obviously the one, but you expect a bit more from Blake Corum, who went down injured, I think, early on in the game. So, very, very solid lineup. Drake London, I think one of us recommended him, right, and didn't put him in the lineup. Can't remember who that was now, but somebody did.
There it
is. I think I had Bijan as captain in my suggestion as well. I had
JT as my captain suggestion, so 50 points, not 62, but not a bad outing. So we made some nice picks between us, but ultimately just didn't put a solid enough lineup together. But, top 80. So
top 80. Good stuff. We'll try and do better in the playoffs. So plenty of playoff competitions and games to get involved with Fantasy Game Day. So you can still, if you've not tried it yet, come and play. Use promo code COVER to play the NFL's best NFL daily fantasy proposition and platform. You'll get a free bonus entry after your first play. Got to be 18 years or over, UK only, and of course, please gamble responsibly. Gentlemen, we did it. That's the end of our second regular season. Almost 2 full years of good teams and great teams cover. In fact, it probably is, since I did the first episode, recording it on my phone. It's probably been 2 full calendar years now. So we've made it this far. Long live good teams win, great teams cover.
Yeah, well done, mate.
Excellent stuff. I did not think we would get this far.
Well, Charlie didn't pass on his congrats as well, so...
Appreciate it. We'll be back, of course, with our NFL wildcard preview show, and that'll drop on Friday. As always, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. Follow along. Also, go give it a rating. You can give it a star rating. Of course, that star rating will be 5 out of 5, I'm sure. You'll be notified of new episodes when they drop. Follow us on YouTube, Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, at GTW_GTC. Thanks very much for watching and listening through the regular season. Hopefully, you'll stick with us through the playoffs. Gentlemen, real football starts now. We'll catch you on Friday with our wildcard playoff preview.